Help support the companies that support our community. I started out with a piece of maple and marked center on both ends. This piece is about 3.5 by 3.5 and about 6 inches long. So I'm going to use a spindle gouge to get it trued up here real quick. And then we will put a tenon down on one end of it so we can grab it in the chuck. Now that we have the tenon done, we'll get the chuck put on and get it mounted in there using that tenon. And I'm going to bring that tailstock up to support it and start shaping it. And again, I'm using the spindle gouge, and the lathe speed is about 2500 RPM. So I'm going to leave a little tenon on the top of it, and I'm just trying to give it a nice, like it's not a vase shape. I kind of made it look like a vase at first, and then you'll see I kind of take it down a little bit. I'm trying to give it like a little, I guess like a little bit of a pod or a pine cone shape, I guess. So I'm going to refine that tenon on the top of it a little bit because it is going to have a lid. Then I'm going to go ahead and bead the whole thing. So this is the Easy Wood beading tool, and I'm going to go ahead and just run all the way down. So there's the tenon right there, and we're going to leave that alone and just work our way down. Now that I have it beaded most of the way down, I'm going to go ahead and start hollowing it out. And I'm going to start out with a Forstner bit here and just get the majority of it cleaned out with that. And the Forstner bit, you know, lidded boxes, vases, anything like that, small stuff like this, it's just a great way to do it. It cleans out a ton of material out of the center of it and kind of speeds up the whole process. Whether you're doing, you know, an urn or a lidded box, this is a great way to get a lot of it cleaned out. And it also, you know, I didn't go all the way down to the bottom on this, I hand turned it, but a lot of times you can set the depth of how far you need to go down too.
It's really dark in the middle.
After I got done with the Forstner bit, I grabbed the #1 hollower and I will finish hollowing this out. So I am making a little birdhouse, so I needed to drill in with a Forstner bit. So I'm just using an awl here to make a point in it so that the Forstner bit has a little bit of a head start. And I can line it right up there, but I forgot to lock the lathe down. So I'll get the lathe locked down and then we can drill the hole. And for this, I'm not sure what size Forstner bit it was, maybe 3/4 inch. I just kind of grabbed one that looked proportionate for the little birdhouse. And it, you know, totally depends. If you're doing a bigger one, you need a bigger bit, or for different types of birds, you know, there's actually, you know, probably a chart, you know, depending on what type of bird you're making it for. So, and then I wanted to put a little perch in here, so I grabbed a small Forstner bit, same size as some walnut dowel I have. That was nice and easy. And then we will go ahead and flip this around and clean up the bottom of it. I still have a few beads left on the bottom I need to do. So we're gonna change the jaws and grab a hold of it that way. And again, I'll bring the tailstock back up to support it and we'll get that foot off of there. Once I got all the beads done, I went ahead and cleaned up just the very bottom of it, and I'm going to leave that part smooth. I'm just bringing down the little bit there at the bottom, and then we'll get it cut off and sand that up real quick. The nice thing about the beading tool is there's no sanding on it, so you don't want to sand the beads after you do them. So just leave them. So that's actually kind of speeds up the whole process too. With that, you don't want to sand them flat. So I'm just using the pull saw to cut that off, and then I'll hit it with a few grits of sandpaper. Then I'm using the Doctor's walnut oil to finish it, and just use a rag, soak it all in. It does go down in all little grooves, so when I was done with this, I let the whole thing sit overnight to dry, because there's still a lot of oil stuck down in all those little grooves. And once I got it all on there, went ahead and pulled it off the lathe and filled the inside of it too and coated all of that. So for the lid, This is another piece, the same kind of maple, and it's 3x3 and probably about 3 inches long. And I just started out with that, put it in between the centers, drilled it up with the spindle gouge, and then we'll get a tenon put on it too. Now that we have that done, we'll get that put in the chuck, and then we can make a recess on it so it'll fit on the top of the birdhouse. So I use the calipers here to mark on the piece. Just measure your tenon and then transfer that right over to your workpiece. And so this process here, I do a lot of lidded boxes and things like that. And it's sometimes we cut some of them out of the video. I don't think we cut any of these out, but we just sped it up. So even when I'm using the calipers for the lidded box or tenon like this, I sneak up on it. I just take my time. You can't put the wood back on. So just take your time. I keep stopping, measuring it, to make sure it's right. I take off just a little teeny bit. I bring the box right back up or whatever it is. And I just keep doing that until it fits good. It's just, I think the video right here is sped up to probably 200%, but it's just take your time, go nice and slow if you want to have a nice fit. Now that we have that done, I'm going to go ahead and start shaping the lid. So I'm just kind of undercutting it a little bit here. I won't go back and touch the recess part of it. That's just the center of the lid. I won't sand that or do anything else to it. I'll just start shaping the lid. And when I do sand the inside of a lidded box, I just sand like the center of it. I don't touch, your recess, the walls of your recess. And I'm using that #1 hauler to shape the lid. And before I cut it off, I'll run through a few of the grits, get it all sanded up, and then we'll flip it around and finish off the top. And for this, just a couple of passes with the #1 hollower. So I am going to put the Jacobs chuck back on for a second and drill a hole in it so I can put a string down there to hang it up. So with this, I just put a regular drill bit in it and drill down into the lid. So I guess just a word of warning. when you're drilling in like something like this, the chuck is right behind, right down there inside of it. But as you're drilling, you can feel when it goes through, when the tension stops on the drill bit. But if you're uncomfortable with that, just drill down in there a little bit and then take it off the lathe and drill it out on a drill press or something. But as you're drilling in, you can feel when it actually releases. But if you're not comfortable, just do it, take it off the lathe and finish it off. But start it on the lathe so you can get the exact center point, so it's all lined up. And then I just sanded it up and finished it off with the walnut oil. There we go. So it is all out of maple. It's 5.5 inches long and about 3 inches in diameter. So a little dowel there. It was just a piece of walnut dowel I had, and I cut a little chunk off and stuck it in. And then for the string, I went ahead and glued the lid on because I'm not going to need to take it off anymore. But if the string ever does break, I can just fish another piece of string down there, pull it out through the hole right there, and tie it off and do another string on it. But it's a fun project. So the beading tool, it is a fantastic texturing tool, and it really speeds up the process. I have done a lot of projects with using beading tools, and there's no sanding on it. It just, you do your beads and you're done. So this is all the same piece of wood. I lined up the grain on it, and it really is, this is all nice and smooth, looks completely different than the beads. So it really does add a nice texture to it. So it was a fun project. All right, I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a great weekend and have a happy Easter. All right, we'll see you next time.